Hey guys, it's been a while. I hope you guys been doing well, and life has been treating you fairly. I know some people have been looking forward to seeing some more guides, but this video has been at the top of my head for a long while now. And honestly, I felt like I couldn't really make any other videos before covering this topic. Don't worry, I'll still be making more guides later on, and as requested in the beginner's guide comment section, the next guide will be about teamfighting. So please look forward to that in the near future. Before we dive into the video, I would like to ask that if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and check out my stream over at
Absolutely. Go
twitch.tv/Esther.
check him out. I've
Without
been in
further
his
ado,
channel. I've rated
I
him a
hope you
few
enjoy the
times.
video.
He's a cool dude.
So for those of you who stumbled upon this video and don't know what game I'm talking about, it's a small game called Eternal Return, and it's a unique battle royale where you have to collect
Mostly
materials in different...
positive reviews. Did you see that? Mostly positive. Check that out. We have 643 recent reviews. Despite all of the craze on Discord, I mean, we're still mostly positive. Like this hasn't I think it was actually like way worse a while ago. But it's been getting better. So I mean,
and it's a unique battle royale where you have to collect materials in different zones to build your loadout. Then contest rare materials at the start of each day or night to build stronger equipment to increase your chance of being the last surviving team on the island. Chances are you've either not heard of it, or heard it was a dead game outside of Asia. However, you can actually reliably get games outside of Asia servers, especially in NA and EU. It's also free on Steam, and you can download it and play it right now.
Absolutely.
So if it's doing so well in the East, why hasn't it been able to gain more attention in the West? Well, that's what we're going to explore in this video. To begin, we have to look at early access to gauge how it did during...
It's crazy to see somebody making a video about what I've been talking about since I started playing. Like, it did not take me long to figure this stuff out. And I feel like I've spoken about it quite a lot, and most of the people I've talked to don't seem to really agree with me. And I'm curious as to why, and it's interesting to see somebody else, hopefully, like, saying what I've been saying for a while. We're going to watch and see what he says.
During its very early stages. And if you notice, Eternal Return did actually have a spike of interest during the early access.
52,000.
If you look at the Steam charts, you will notice that its peak was actually around 50,000 players. This actually played as a very big detriment to Eternal Return, as it had a number of very glaring problems to it. While it was a very unique take to the BR genre, ER was a very complex game due to a number of factors. First off, there was a lot of recipes that you had to memorize, such as cooking food and crafting traps, to name a few. It was also very punishing as a BR, as sometimes if you encountered someone early, your run was
oh my god, look how different everything looks.
And to make it even worse, Eternal Return is a MOBA, which is a very notorious genre for having a learning curve due to the variety of characters you interact with. All of these really ruined a lot of people's first impressions of the game. And to make it even worse, the company that made Eternal Return, Nimble Neuron, stumbled onto a lot of investors for this game, and didn't really know how to market the game internationally. If you want to see for yourself what the game looked like back then, you can check out a video from a streamer that Nimble Neuron decided to sponsor at the time, XQC.
You had to mention it. Oh, Esther, you had to mention it, didn't you? Oh, God, it's so funny. If you guys haven't seen this, I'll link it in the Discord. It's hilarious. Oh, it's so bad, but like,
Eternal Return also had 3 game modes.
It's hard to sit through,
solos,
honestly.
Duos, and squads, and a ranked variant for each of them. Then later, the for fun game mode Cobalt Protocol came out, totaling up to having 7 different queues.
Cobalt,
this
let's
became
go.
a huge problem for ER, for when a lot of the player base inevitably left, the remaining players were divided up into these 7 queues, which made it a lot less
7 queue mode? 7. 7. Wait, so like what? So like norms ranked, or like solos ranked, solos norms, duos ranked, duos norms. Holy shit, yeah, there's 7. Because then they had squads ranked, squads norms, and then Cobalt. Holy.
Which caused even more players to leave due to being under the impression of the game being dead. Which is
well, yeah, because you're splitting your player base among 7 modes, and you don't have the size. You don't have the size to do that. And now they're trying to add more, by the way. They are trying to add more again, and we'll see how that goes when it happens.
Because at the end of early access, it really was a dead game. However, since ER has left early access, it has had a very stable player base of around 20,000 online at a time at its peak for well over a year now on Steam.
And it's not like it's not dead.
Game has not seen in early access at all. So what did they change? First, the game modes went down to only squads,
Yeah.
reducing the amount of game modes from 7 to 3.
Yes.
Normal mode, ranked mode, and Cobalt Protocol. They also had to slightly rework a lot of characters' kits to fit the squad's game mode, as the kits were built more
Slightly.
for solos.
Yeah, they had to tweak a lot of characters, like the majority of them, it looks like, because most characters were built for the solos mode. And it's the same thing that happened with Overwatch, where much of the characters in Overwatch have also been massively tweaked or slightly tweaked to try and fit it. And that takes so much time to do because you're basically trying to remake the character around a new mode that you didn't have before, trying to rebalance the game to get it to where it was with solos. But oh god, it takes so much time, and they have to stop and like sit here and put so much money and time into this instead of making uh new content.
As it was the most popular mode in terms of competitive play.
It really
Which
slows
begs the
things down when you have to
question,
do that.
out of the three, why did they choose squads? While solos was considered to be the competitive side of the game, squads was actually the most popular for casual players,
Well, yeah,
which makes sense because the squads allowed you to play with your friends.
right.
So they decided to make Eternal Return a squads only game, which was the correct decision in the long run, despite the amount of negative reviews this game got due to the players complaining about.
I don't want to like I kind of want to stop and read these, but like it would take all day if I did that. Oh, look at this one. Oh. 1.0 launch of this game has severely disappointed me. For starters, they removed solos mode because some of the investors were convinced squads was the way to go. Squads is arguably the worst game mode out of the three. Imagine having to micromanage two people on your team who might not even have the slightest clue on what they're doing. Why would you remove the game mode that let people figure out how the game works on their own instead of one where you have to rely on other carrying your team and being carried? 0/10 will 0 out of 10 will reinstall when solos/duos are back. Oh my god.
About removing solos.
And like that, I don't even need to read the rest because that is a widely held opinion amongst people that played when solos came out. Oh my
They
god.
simplified a lot of the mechanics in the game. You used to have to memorize a lot of different crafting recipes, but now you don't have to memorize any recipe. Need to cook food? Get some basic food and go to a campfire.
Yep.
Need cameras for vision? Kill some bats or ravens, or spend some credits to drone them in.
Yep.
Even when making your loadout doesn't require you to memorize anything. And if you've been playing Eternal Return for a while now, is something that I actually recommend. You just click some items, hit generate routing. You can also see what other items you can make on that route as well. You then set your tactical skill, augments, finally your late game items, and that's it. If you want to do some testing, Eternal Return even has a practice tool that allows you to try any character or any skin for free. They even have some innovative things that help new players, like something small such as highlighting the first loot cluster blue so players are incentivized to loot that cluster, or something larger such as having Professor Nadia.
Yeah, the hyper competitive veterans are the ones that are contesting so many of the new systems in the game. And as much as I want to hear the opinions from most, if not all, of the sides of the community, I think that the most of the backlash and most of the hate is coming from the people that can't admit that squads is just better for the game in the long run. It does make it more casual, but there is definitely still room for the competitive scene. Absolutely, there's more room for this competitive scene, and it makes it so that every single game is like a chaotic but really engaging competitive game to watch because nobody's playing the same compositions. There's so many different compositions for so many different characters that everything is so viable and balanced that you can really play whatever you want. And that's really healthy for a game like this to be able to play whatever you want and have so many different like matchups and things that you can try and balance around. And it keeps the game engaging not only to play but to watch as well. And obviously it's going to suffer if you're a solo player. Your experience is going to be way different and not nearly as fun as if you were playing with people, but that just goes for basically any game that is like this. I mean, it's not just an Eternal Return issue, and I think that a lot of people who have that opinion are looking at it in just Eternal Return and aren't thinking in terms of competitive games as a medium.
Giving you suggestions on what to do during your match so you're not lost on what to do. You can even customize her on which suggestions to give you if you feel like confident on some things or feel like you're lacking in others. By the way, whoever gave the suggestions, I hope got a pay raise or something, because in my opinion, this is by far the biggest thing that's helping out new players figure out this game the most. And lastly, Eternal Return went from being brutally punishing to one of the least punishing BRs I have ever played.
Yeah, it's the biggest reason I'm playing it. Like, it's the biggest reason I've stuck around, and I feel like a lot of people picking this up who don't traditionally like MOBAs or Battle Royales. I think that it takes Like, and we've said this before when I was talking about on the podcast, the first one about the new player experience. Much of the general experience for most people is that when you're playing with friends or when you're trying to learn this game, it feels a lot less punishing than a lot of other battle royales right now because like they're so competitive and so involved that like when you're picking it up, especially if you're not used to battle royales, you're gonna get curb stomped over and over and over again, and it's gonna be impossible to learn because you have to go back to the menu and to go back in, find all your stuff, die, go back and repeat the process. There's no environment for you to learn in, and especially now that they add the anti-termination system, I feel like that there's a lot more time for people to spend in each game to help them learn it. Does it make it a lot more casual? Yes. But we're going to talk about that on the next podcast on the 18th, so keep looking forward to that.
To start, when you die, you actually revive for free up until day 3,
hmm
so long as your team doesn't fully wipe. However,
I'm curious as to see what Esther's opinion is on it.
they may even change that aspect in later seasons to make it so it's just impossible to wipe before day 3.
hmm
After day 3, if you die, your team can just revive you by spending some credits and a few seconds at a kiosk.
Yes.
So if Eternal Return solved a lot of issues on complexity, and has even found growth in Asia, why is it still struggling to find footing in the international gaming space? There may be a few reasons to why this is. One possible reason is that the 50k peak is still affecting ER today. Hear me out.
Really?
One of the most important impressions that need to be positive for gamers is the first impression of the game. And with a lot of players who have tried the game and most likely had a bad time in the early access, it makes a lot of sense that they're most likely not willing to try the game again. And with word being that ER is a dead game outside of Asia definitely does not help either. Another possible reason is that a lot of money from investors has already been spent in early access for marketing. And this is probably the biggest reason why Eternal Return has not been able to market very well other than the occasional sponsored stream lately. They hosted a lot of different events, some examples being the Labs tourneys, where a bunch of streamers with some ER partners competed to win some money that gets donated to a charity of their choice.
hmm
Or the Gen G partnership, where Gen G sponsored streamers were paid to play the game.
Adra
And it's
Toma? Toma? Toma was here. Wait, when was this? I missed this. When was this? Is it was anybody here for this?
streamers were paid to play the game.
Toma still plays? I need to
And
contact
it's
Adra Toma.
unfortunate too, because one of the biggest complaints of Eternal Return right now is the matchmaking, specifically in normal mode being too broad, and the only way to solve that is for the player base to grow. However, I do actually have a question for you guys. If Nimble Neuron had enough money to push international marketing right now, do we actually think that it's going to grow a player base a good amount? Because in my opinion, as of right now, I don't actually think so. And the reason for that is because there's still a big problem in Eternal Return that isn't really being talked about, and is still affecting the new players to this day. That reason is the fact that Eternal Return still does not tell new players some mechanics that can actually help them tremendously.
Yes, yes and no. I think that there are some major mechanics that the game doesn't really teach, but I think that because there's so many things involved in Eternal Return, there's a certain limit to how much the game can actually teach you. If only it would like start pushing. I think it's less about the fact that it doesn't teach you these mechanics. Many of the things that it doesn't teach you, you can just kind of learn by playing the game. And especially now that the anti-termination system is here, you definitely have a lot of environment and time where you can learn this stuff. So it's like I don't think that the game really needs to teach a lot of these mechanics, but I'm gonna let him like explain further what he's talking about. Um, I think that it just needs to push the tutorials more, and it needs to make it apparent that people need to kind of look into these when they're starting the game. There's a lot of resources and things that you can do. Um, Lots of guide videos that people are making to try and simplify this stuff. Like there's a lot of resources and the devs just don't push for it, you know? Like it's there and it's pretty useful. It's just that they don't make it they don't make it obvious. They don't push players towards that direction.
And if they don't know
What's
these
up, Sarah?
mechanics, they will be put at a pretty big disadvantage. Let me give you a smaller example. In Season 7, if you press P and open a crafting menu, on the right side you will see a list of items that are basically shortcuts to drone them in so you don't actually have to search them.
When you're setting up OBS, nice. It can be a little bit of a hassle, but it is worth it.
Below that tab, you will see a section that just says drone with nothing in it.
Mm-hmm.
This has a really nice function for building your base loadout, where if you miss any items or your loadout requires for you to drone something in, Instead of clicking through your list items on the top right, the materials will show up in that section.
I still do that, but
And
yeah,
if
it
you
is
were
nice.
wondering, this is not a new feature of Season 7. No, this feature has been in the VPad since most likely Season 1.
I don't use the V-pad. I use the top right and the P button, but I know that they're trying to they're gonna add some features back to the V-pad because they completely removed it, which is weird.
And the only reason I found out about this was by randomly stumbling upon it during one of my matches. I don't know why this is not told to new players. It makes droning a lot easier.
That is crazy.
Now let's talk about a bigger topic. Loot clusters. If you don't know, in Eternal Return, materials are not completely randomized in their zones. Instead, they are organized in these loot clusters, which there are about 4 of them in each zones before being shuffled. Basically, if you loot an unlooted cluster, you're pretty much guaranteed to get all the items you need in that zone. Now, by simply knowing and understanding how this works, you will most likely finish a lot faster than by somebody who doesn't.
Yes.
So it would make sense that Eternal Return would teach you about this, or at the very least, have some sort of indicator that would entice you to loot the cluster. And to their credit, they do, but only for your first cluster. I get it that the argument would be that loot clusters kind of matter a little less in subsequent zones due to them having a chance being looted already. But here's the thing. In earlier season, they increased the loot pool for each cluster so all loot boxes are full. And not only that, in this season, they decreased the amount of items required for each piece of equipment to be fully crafted. So with both of these together, it's actually rare for you to not find everything in one cluster anymore. So why not just extend the loot cluster indicator to until the players finish their base build? And also, why not just tell players about the significance of loot clusters and the droning section in the tutorial? Maybe add...
Does it not? I think I still haven't looked at the tutorial. I think I need to take a look at it and figure it like, You know what? Let's do that after this. Let's look at the tutorial. There's not much left on here. I'm wondering if he's at all going to mention like the advertisements. I thought this was going to be a video about like the advertisement strategies, but I mean he did kind of mention it a little bit, but I think it's more of an issue than people are giving it credit for.
The indicators in the tutorial as well. Speaking of the tutorial, there's some noticeable problems within it as well. First, Gaijin being the character in the second section is probably the worst character they chose for this. They make the player builder as an auto attacker, which gives players the wrong idea.
And I played it in Cobalt once, and it was really good. It was stupid effective. But
she's a
carry on.
spellcaster instead. Not only that, she's also a bit of a complex character to play. So I honestly think they should switch Gaijin for someone like Aya, who is, in my opinion, the best beginner character to play for a backliner.
Yeah, but I don't want to see more Aya, man. I already see plenty of Aya. I don't want more of that.
Some topics such as cooking and reviving, which are both mechanics that the player needs to know. Yes, I know that these topics are covered in the guide, but the tutorial takes around 15 to 20 minutes to do fully, taking your time.
And most people want to sit there,
After they finish the tutorial to then read the guide just feels like it will give them a negative impression about the game.
Yeah.
If I was a new player, I would expect that the tutorial would at least give me the bare minimum of how the game works, so I could just hop into a match and play. Instead, I think we should extend the tutorial for another 5-ish minutes to add a new section in the tutorial that covers these topics, so the guide can be of a more optional information section that players can look up specific stuff. You see, Eternal Return is a very unique game with a sizable learning curve to it. Making unnecessary bumps and walls at the start is just going to funnel out loads of players before they get the chance to actually...
And that is the biggest issue, is that we have a lot of people picking up the game, but most people don't stay because of the learning curve. It's so intense that people would rather go play something else that they've already been playing. Like a lot of League players that we're trying to convince to play this game, or a lot of like other MOBA players where I'm like, yeah, you like MOBAs or you like Battle Royales, you might like Eternal Return, and then they try it and they all have the same experience where it's just like there's so much going on and it's so hard to learn at first that like they just leave. And I feel like that's most of the experience. If I, as an influencer, if I can't get people to play this game for the same reasons that most average players will, who just pick up the game off of Steam and try it, imagine what people are like when they don't have a community to immediately jump into or help instantly. Like they're gonna play a few games. They're gonna be put into bots. They might play long enough. Like the 1% might even play long enough to get to like level 20 or 30 where they stop seeing bot games, and then they get completely curb stomped by pro players. So it's like they either are fighting games that just are mindless, like bot games that don't do anything or teach you anything, or they get like pro players or people who have been playing forever who can just completely annihilate them because we've already learned the systems.
Experience the game.
Like, it's just
And
not
this just
good.
worsens due to the fact that matchmaking can pitch new players against veterans because of the smaller player base.
Yes.
Do I think these changes will somehow save all of Eternal Return?
Mm-mm.
No. But I do think it will at least help new players understand the game a lot better. So when they most likely will lose to these veterans, at least they won't exit the game feeling like they are completely lost. Anyways, that's going to be it. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have, give the video a like, subscribe.
Good video. I think that he does touch up on a lot of the current issues that we've already talked about. It's good to see creators actually talking about this. I'm not surprised. I'm not subbed to Esther. Let me fix that. Of course, go to Esther's video, show him some support for making it. I'm glad to see that people are actually talking about this, and hopefully you guys give him a like at least, or sub to his channel. He makes some great videos, and encourage him to make more stuff like this. Encourage people to start talking about this stuff. We have lots of guide videos, but I want to see more discussion content like this.